Well, right. I mean, you're not using the math that you're using, like the calculus and stuff like that you
But
learn.
it's like you don't ever use it in real life, and everyone complains about
Right.
that.
But I mean, our kids learned how to exchange currency in foreign countries, and like that they like, oh, well, you're going to give them $10 US, but they're only going to give you whatever back in this country because the exchange rate, but then also they take a fee. Well, why is there a fee? Well, they're trying to run a business. They need to make a profit, and like just having those conversations.
The only math that matters.
Yeah, right.
Like business math.
Yeah,
exactly.
How to make money, that's really, really cool.
And a lot of it was just like the schooling of life. I mean, like I've traveled internationally a handful of times, and like, but mostly countries that spoke English and like very similar to the U.S. That way. But like Thailand was totally different. Like we kind of had culture shock for the first couple of days, like all of us. But then it was just kind of like, well, we're here. We just need to like live. Like, how do we get groceries? And we go to the grocery store and like nobody spoke English, and we're like, well, it kind of looks like something I would eat. Let's try it.
Yeah.
Wow.
They have the meat just in like a baggie on a plate in the back, and you just put it in your bag. I'm like, it's not how I grew up, but all right, let's try it.
There you go.
Wow, what a cultural education. That's like so true. You get to experience all these places. Now, I have to ask, you had a really big winter. Can you rate your top 5 of those countries and those trips?
Thailand was by far everybody's favorite. So we actually chartered a sailboat, and so we had a captain and her husband. It was like a 50-foot sailboat. So we did a week like around this Bay Area, and all the touristy stuff you see be on the east, or we were in Phuket, so whatever that bay is called. But yeah, we did all the stuff you could go to, on day trips or whatever. I'm like, well, let's just rent a boat and do them all in one shot. So we just had our own private crew. They cooked the food, and like, so we just snorkeled and stuff. So I mean, that was the best thing I've ever done.
Today on the Beyond Net Worth podcast, we had Luke Hoffman. Luke is a friend of mine. He lives in Iowa, and he has his hands in a ton of great businesses. So we talked about how he got his start, taking the leap from his W-2 job. He invests in service businesses, real estate, and he's created a life where he and his family can vacation or live, where he homeschools his 3 kids for 3 months at a time, all across Asia and all over the world. So, I love Luke because he's very modest for his accomplishments. He's very hardworking, and I love his tactics. I love his systems, and I hope that you can take something from what he taught us today and apply it to your life or business.
This episode is brought to you by Big Storage Ventures. We are now inviting you to team up and partner alongside us. We bring our experience hunting storage deals and maximizing the self-storage asset to provide our partners with cash flow, tax benefits, and appreciation, all in one recession-resistant asset. Leverage our sister company, Big Ben's Moving Service, to fill your facility and give you an edge over the competition. Reach out to bigstorageventures@gmail.com or DM Big Storage Ventures on Instagram to team up.
What I'm excited to hear about today, like I know Luke is a guy, he lives in Iowa, he has a lot of property, a lot of businesses, very creative, very hardworking, very handy, and also like looking for opportunities outside the box. He has, on top of like a construction business, he has a abatement business that we'll talk about, working with the government. But I guess I would ask, I've only known you as that guy out in Iowa he
The only person.
Travels the world with his family. They do homeschool and they just travel all over.
Awesome.
And he has his businesses humming from my perspective. But wind us back to like, who were you before your businesses popped, and kind of how did it get to that point?
Sure. No, I was born and raised in Dubuque, Iowa, which is on the Mississippi, the eastern side. Just grew up kind of the average Iowan. I wasn't a farm kid, which what most people think of in Iowa, but just like middle class. My dad's an engineer. My mom works in the hospital, in the medical field. Just like an average upbringing, nothing special. We did a couple vacations a year type of thing, but just like normal person type of thing. But I got into entrepreneurship and real estate about 8 years ago.
Oh, wow.
So I haven't been doing it terribly long compared to a lot of people, but my ultimate goal was just like, I had a W-2 out of school. I'm like, great, this is making good money, but like, it's not my thing. You know, like, I mean, you guys are all entrepreneurs as well, so you get it. You work for somebody for a while, and I have a travel bug. My only W-2 out of college was for a software company. And so nice. I traveled basically every week somewhere in the States. So fly out Monday, fly home Friday.
Wow.
So I saw most of the United States.
Were you married at the time?
Yep.
Okay.
We were married, met in college. Yeah, basically since day one we were married, I was gone, like right off the bat. Right. So yeah,
I mean, now you get to bring her with you.
Yeah, before it was tough. You're always gone. So like, it was almost like you got married and then it's like a long distance relationship almost immediately, and you check in every weekend type of thing. But yeah, I just knew that wasn't for me. And honestly, just being on like the road all the time, I only really had to work 3 days a week because I'd be on a client site Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. So I would just get paid to like read books and listen to podcasts
on Mondays and Fridays.
So I would just, and I was always trying to work the game, you know, typical entrepreneur. Like I would try to get the points for Hilton and American Airlines. So I would take flights all the way around the country to like get as many points as I could on Fridays. So I'd be traveling for like 30 hours at a shot. When instead of just coming straight home and be like, oh, I'll just fly all the way around the U.S. and just read all day, and no big deal.
Yeah.
But I mean, it afforded us the opportunity to travel. Like we got so many points, I was able to like afford that. That was my like, I don't know what to do. I'm a W-2, I only make so much money, but I want to travel. That was our way in. But yeah, I mean, and then just listening to all those books and podcasts and everything, I mean, I just got to soak it in.
Yeah, I love that. It's like the education you got in that off just like inspired you to want more. How much of an influence was like your wife? And I think this is important for like our podcast, the Beyond Network podcast. For me, reading between the lines, it seems like you're making really good money at a software company, traveling, viewing the world, but you weren't able to spend a lot of time with your newly married wife. How much of an influence was that on like, hey, I need something more, I need to do something different?
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't the ideal situation by any means, and so that was my original why was basically like, I want to be with my family. We had one, our daughter at that time.
Oh, wow.
But it was like, we're going to have a family, like we want to have more kids. I don't want to be gone 24/7. I mean, you got to see all the people that were working with you, and they've been on the road for the last 40 years. They're divorced. They don't have good relationships. I mean, they're alcoholics, a lot of them, doing some shady stuff on the road. Like, I'm like, that's not for me. That's not my life. And so my why was really like, we need to get out of this somehow. And I mean, real estate's where I found my niche originally, and that's how I really got out of it. But yeah, I mean, it could have been really anything, any kind of business or whatever.
Sure.
Go back to those first real estate deals. Like, how long did it take you to replace your W-2, and what were some of the things you feel like you did right or wrong in those first couple steps?
Yeah.
So I did what everybody shouldn't do probably, is I quit my W-2 and we bought a company and real estate the same month. So I quit in like February.
Why not? That sounds great.
I just basically burned the boat. I'm like, oh, we're going to do it.
Yeah.
And honestly, it was kind of one of those, like, I turned down a promotion at my W-2 that would have made me like 3 or 4 from the top at the company.
Oh, wow.
Like the week before I was ready to quit, they're like, hey, we want to promote you. And I'm like, ooh, yeah, about that. So I kind of had to speed it up because I knew I was going to exit, but I wasn't ready essentially. So we bought a chemical manufacturing business, actually, a partner of mine. And so we bought that, and I bought real estate the same month, but I just quit the W-2, and then the deal almost fell apart. So I was like unemployed for about a month. And then I was like, oh crap, now what are we doing?
Yeah.
Okay, this is where it gets interesting.
Yeah.
Yep.
Because like I'm interested, like, I don't know why I'm interested, but I want to know how much cash reserves you had, and I also want to know why you picked a chemical business. Like, did your partner have experience in that? Did you have experience in that?
Nope.
What
knowing what I know now, like, we took risks that we didn't even know we were taking, honestly. I mean, we lived off the first like 4 to 6 months with like 12 grand. I mean, that's what I lived off. Like, we just quit everything. But leading up to it, we had cars and we had all like the stuff that you accumulate. We got rid of it all. And so we sold everything, bought like an old Suburban my in-laws gave us for like pennies on the dollar.
Wow.
And just like streamlined down to where like, hey, we can live off like 15 to 30 grand a year, depending on what it all shakes out as. And so we just got every expense gone basically but our house.
Wow.
And student loans at the time. But yeah,
so
it was just
you
like,
went backwards in expenses.
Yeah, we like cut hard. Like the couple months leading up, I'm like, I know I'm going to exit, whether it's going to be in January, February, maybe it's July. Like, I don't know, but we need to set ourselves up. So like the fall leading up to that, we just started to sell this, sell that, and we didn't really save any money per se. Like, we didn't stockpile cash, but
you
we had
lowered
debt.
you lowered your expenses.
Yeah. Yep.
I'm really glad you mentioned that. Like, I'm glad we're talking about this because something we could have glossed over, but you guys bought, and you and your wife, you had a kid at the time, and you guys bought into like, we're going to do this. Let's sell everything and completely limit all those liabilities every month.
Yeah. I mean, I read in a lot of the books and podcasts, like, you know, you just like, hey, you need to streamline your expenses. You need to kind of get your life in order. And I just like literally did it. I'm like, all right, let's just cut all the fat and we'll see what happens, you know? And like worst case, my backup plan was always, I mean, the Cartograph was a company I worked for, and they were always like, hey, we want you to stay. We want to promote you, all these things. So I'm like, what do I have to lose? Like, honestly, I was 26, 27. Like at that point in your life, like it's the easiest time to quit and jump ship type of thing.
Right. And try it.
When you're 40, 50 years old, you have all this other stuff that's happened.
Yeah.
It's a lot harder when your kids are in college or high school and you're like, hey, by the way, we're going to take away all these cool things. We're not going to do vacations. Like, so it's like, if we're going to do it, like now's the time. Let's make or break it.
Wow. That's incredible.
And I think something just on this point, business people with the right values, ideas, work ethic, it works out for them. Mm-hmm. I think, you know, if you know that and you believe that in your 20s, like that's a gift, because if you're in your 50s and you really are, I mean, I think people should quit their job and start a business in their 50s.
Yeah.
But the risk is you don't know what the next 5 to 10 years look like, when you're in your 20s, it doesn't really matter, because you know in the long run, your life will be better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you have such a long runway that even if it goes sideways, you can always get another job.
Right.
That is very true. I've heard Bridger Pennington talk a bunch. It's like, how risky is it actually in this country? You know, It's like, if you quit your job, like, what about all the programs? What about all the support? What about all, like, there's so much in this country that like how bad could it actually get for someone who's willing to work?
Yep.
You know, so.
And my personality is like, I'm always trying to like hustle the next thing, you know, like let's sell stuff on Facebook. Let's buy, you know, I've done like the liquidation games, buying pallets and like just flipping stuff to make money. And so I have confidence in myself, even at that age, of like, I can make money. Like I'm not really concerned about it. It might not be $100,000 a year or $300,000 a year or something, but like I can make our basic bills. I mean, even if I got to deliver pizzas, like whatever, let's do it.
Yeah. Well, I love that. We've heard this more than once on the podcast, and but we don't hear it every time. So I can think of 2 people right now that have like talked about how important it is to live a certain lifestyle, like, and how like cutting back on some of your lifestyle things. Dr. Burns, who this is the first person that we had on the podcast that said this. It's like, for me, if you cut back on your expenses and your lifestyle is only, like you said, like $12,000 a year, it's like what you have to do in passive income, or what you have to do to like cover that, is it's so much faster. Like your runway is shorter to like cover your life than if you had maintained like a much bigger expenses, like much bigger lifestyle.
Yeah, it's different too in Iowa compared to even here. Like our cost of living is totally different. I mean, the average house out here is what, 800 to $1 million probably.
Yeah, for like, a 4-bedroom.
Like I live in a 3,000 square foot home, like 4 beds, 3 baths. I paid like $212 for it.
I mean, what year though? What year?
Like 5 years ago.
Okay.
I mean, it's probably worth $400 now.
$212 though.
I know. It's,
but I mean, it's more. It's probably less than half, you know, cost of living wise. So, like we had that advantage going for us for sure. I mean, just your location, you might as well take advantage of it if you're there.
For sure. That's a good point.
And your real estate deals were local. Like, were they duplex? Was it duplex?
Yeah, we actually started out doing more like multifamily, but not like what most people think in these bigger markets. It's like cut up old houses that are 4 to 6 units and 4plexes. I mean, nothing like 100 units. We don't really even have that. I think there's like 3 complexes over 50 in our area.
Yeah.
Like it's just not a thing.
But you could cash flow it out there, it sounds like.
Yeah. Oh yeah, they cash flow day one. Like we're kind of in that weird market where like we have cash flow, like really good cash flow, and then we have a little bit of appreciation, not like California appreciation, but I mean, like my real estate houses I used to buy for 30, 40,000 that were worth 100 are now worth like 160. Yeah. In the last 5 to 7 years.
That makes sense.
So I mean, we're seeing some appreciation, but not like, you know, sky high.
Yeah.
But it's all relative. I mean, it's a ratio.
You can pick up 10 of those, and a property's not appreciating like it should in some of these bigger markets. It's like, who cares?
Yeah.
It's great.
Well, you'd almost want like on one hand, it's like it'd be nice to have the cash flow instead of like an equity play where it's like, hey, I'm not cash flowing, but I'm gonna bank on selling this for X amount of dollars over, and that's how I'm going to get my returns. That does work out for a lot of people, but then there's just a little more risk.
Yeah, right. You don't know what the horizon looks like.
Right. Well, I'm getting really excited. I feel like I kind of want to come back to like this decision. Like, help us through, if you can go back 8 years ago, this thought process, like this business, and then like going back to the chemical company. Sure. It's like how, like Ben asked, like, how did you find it? Like, why did you pick that company?
Still
like,
puzzled.
Like, what was that? Can you dive a little deeper into that story?
Yeah, so my partner and I, like, we just knew we wanted to have some sort of business venture. And so we were like, all right, let's buy some existing business. And no joke, like this chemical company, I have no relation to it. Like, it was just kind of like, it's been in Dubuque for like 100 years at the time of purchase. It was actually our pastor, his son-in-law, who lives in South Carolina. He brokers bottle caps, or he did at the time.
Wow.
And so he'll broker like millions and millions of bottle caps. He randomly would sell this company like a pallet or less a year because it was a write-off for him to come back to town to see his in-laws.
Oh.
So he's like, I need a customer here. Like, oh, cool, I have a customer.
That's
like,
great tax strategy.
Yeah, like I don't even care if I make money.
Right there.
And so he actually told us about it, and I just cold called the guy the one random day and was like, hey, I know this person that knows you. Would you have any interest in selling? And they were older, like in their 60s, 70s.
Wow.
And he's like, yeah, actually, we were just talking about it. Like, we'd entertain that. And so we just went down that road. I mean, it was a complete cold call.
Amazing timing. And what was your, like, okay, you're in this, what's your role? What are your first steps you're going to take?
So my partner, he worked at John Deere as an engineer at the time. And so he stayed on at John Deere, and I quit my job. And so the kind of that plan was like, I'll run the operations and run the business day to day. He can kind of work on the bigger picture and like the visionary role, at least till we can get him to quit his job and come over, and then we'll split it. I'm more of the sales and like operations, like sales and like admin operations. And he's more of like, he's an engineer. So like he could figure out the conveyor lines and all the filling, if you will, the machineries.
Wow.
So
More
he had
technical.
that knowledge. Yeah. Like I can do it, but it's not my forte. He's an engineer. He does it. He used to build robots at John Deere. So that was his thing.
Was there any bumps?
Yeah, there was a ton of bumps. So we thought the business was like, it'll make a little bit of money, but like we'll just grow it from there. Yeah, what we actually realized was it wasn't making money at all. Like we didn't understand P&Ls. We didn't understand how to read all the financials. It was actually like bleeding cash, hardcore, and we didn't have that cash. So we went from like, oh, it's going to make, 50 or 60 grand. I'll live off that. And like, we'll get you here pretty quick, my partner. To like, oh no, we're losing money. Like this is going to go belly up really quick. And so he was actually like feeding from his salary into the business to at least keep me afloat as well.
Wow.
And then, we had to do something. So we just sold. Start selling stuff. Like whatever we got, let's sell it and figure it out. So there were some relationships there that the previous owner, like just being old, that he did his stuff a certain way. And like, we're young, we're new, we have new ideas. So we reapproached all these, like the school districts were big customers, but they had kind of fallen off over the years. So we just went in and like, hey, what do you want? Like, what are you actually looking for? Like, let us solve the problem. And so they gave us a shot, and like we got in some doors there, but we took it from like basically losing money in the 2 years that I was there to over $1 million in sales.
Wow.
And then I exited because I saw a different horizon for me. But yeah, it was scary for the first year.
Wow, but you guys climbed out. What an incredible story. It's like, I wasn't sure when you were telling that story. It's like, did it go belly up? How'd when you were talking about selling stuff, like, are you like liquidating this business? Like you're selling getting rid of like, the light fixtures to pay it off. I don't know, but that wasn't the case. That's pretty incredible.
Yeah. It wasn't like the hero's journey or whatever. Like it wasn't like we made all this money. Like I exited and I made like 80 grand off the sale. Like just give me my whole focus was like, I'm going to exit this business. Give me a runway. Give me like a year and a half salary that I can live off. And like, I'll go do my own thing with real estate. And like, if it works, awesome. Cause that's what I wanted to do. But if it doesn't, I have some runway. I can really give it my full effort, not worrying about like a daily paycheck. And then if it doesn't, I'll figure something out.
Wow. So, I don't want to go back too much, but tell me about like your partner. Why did you decide to go into business with him? Like, what was that thought process?
Yeah, so we met at our local church, and just local friend group, just kind of always hanging out. There's a handful of us, different couples. Just you're friends, you're young, you're like, I'm an entrepreneurial mindset. You guys are like, let's do something. Just conversations like
that
we should do
sense.
something together. We should do something together. And
Got it.
It kind of worked out well too, because like even though I had a high paid job, but he had a higher paid job. And so it was like, cool. Like you have some skills that I don't, you have the income and a really solid position. I'm okay leaving my job. Like mine's just making money. Like it's nothing special to me type of thing.
Right.
So yeah, we just chose to try it, and we're like, all right, we got to find something.
That's thank you. I feel like even though it's a small thing for context, it's helpful. Just your friends, and you decided like let's just do something.
You still had good fortune, you know, like
Yeah.
you guys both had roles you were still figuring out. I mean, it sounds like a pretty trustworthy guy for him to do what he did. So
yeah, I mean, we both learned a lot. I mean, you learn the whole role thing. Like you're just like, oh, we're gonna do this, and like we'll just figure it out. We'll make it work. But like knowing what I know now, like we should have split our roles a little bit more equally, and like you're in charge of this, like you own it, and I'm gonna own this part, you own that part.
Very clearly what you do.
Because it might have made things easier. Like if we did that same scenario today, I think we would, you know, if we went from negative to $1 million in sales that took us 2 years, I think we probably could do it in like 6 months now with the knowledge that I have from growing my own businesses.
Wow.
You know, so you just learn. I mean,
right.
I looked at it as it was a cheap education. Like
Great
I didn't lose any
education.
money, but I also struggled pretty hard for a couple of years. But hey,
Probably better than university,
Right.
like
Oh, for
on
sure.
business. Like, what a great education.
I just want to like draw out what you said, right? The roles are so tough. So for someone that is starting a business for the first time with a partner, honestly, this is a best case scenario. Like take the lesson that he just gave you and line out the roles explicitly and clearly. And that's going to help you, you know, compress your timeline to make money. Like you said, you could have done it in 6 months. It took you 2 years kind of thing. So
Did he stay on, your partner, or is and so you're able to exit and he still owns it? Is he still running it?
yeah, so he's still involved with it today. I think he brought on some different investors and whatnot through, I mean, COVID was boom and bust type of thing when, you know, we had the ability when I was even there, like to make hand sanitizers. So the COVID days had a lot of good times. And then you're also, when it stopped, it was kind of like, oh, you know, what is it? Like the musical chairs, you know, like you got to get rid of your inventory quick because it's coming to an end. So I don't know exactly where it all shook out, but he's still involved with it.
Really cool. Really, really cool. So tell us about the journey, because you knew pretty early on into this venture that you did with your partner that you wanted to exit that and you wanted to do something else. Tell us about that thought process. Who were your biggest influences on, like, why did you want to change gears again?
Yeah, I mean, I could see the writing on the wall with the business was still kind of a job to me. So I'm like, all right, cool. Like we can get it to where I'm making $100,000 or $200,000, but like it's still, I got to show up 40 hours a week. Like I want that passive income. And I just didn't see the path to necessarily get the business to that point.
Right.
And I already had a couple rentals. So I was seeing, you know, $200 a month or whatever. Like it was, you know, it was actually big money to me at that time because it was like,
it's great.
Sweet, I need it.
Even $200 a month can go a long way, especially if you're living off
Yeah, it was
15 a year.
because we bought our first. It was a duplex and a fourplex. We bought 6 units on our first deal, and so I mean, I was like, wow, this is like half my salary per month. You know, like this is great.
Wow, that's really cool.
Wow. How did you scale it? Like once you made the leap, this is the part I love hearing about is scaling. And we talk about, you know, where you are today, kind of your origin story, but what's most important is the tactics and the things that it took to scale.
So I was a huge Bigger Pockets listener. I mean, Brandon Turner, like I binged on all of his stuff, you know, for years and years when on the planes, and then even after we started the journey. But you know, they kept harping on like, you got to have a goal, you got to know where you're going, like all the things that we all kind of talk about today, like have your vision for your life, where you're going. So my wife and I sat down. I don't remember. I think there was an event we went to or something that kind of, you know, sparked the conversation. We're like, hey, if we're going to do this, or let me back up for a second, I guess too. Like with our first properties we bought, it wasn't all like roses and, you know, great. Like it was terrible. Like we almost got out after the first year because we had bad tenants. We had a fire, like just like a grease fire in a kitchen.
Whoa.
Just didn't know what you were doing. So like it was painful. Like you're painting, you work all day at the business, then go there and paint a room at 10 o'clock at night because you have to, like, to get it leased up because I didn't have any money to like float the mortgage. So we did that. And honestly, we got to that point at the end of the first year of like, this sucks. We need to either like go all in and do this or just sell it off. Maybe we make 10, 15 grand, like just
Be done.
yeah, we learned
Wash your
something
hands,
cool. Like
yeah.
it's fine. And so we sat down. We're like, no, I think this is like, we can see the writing on the wall that people are actually like making this go and like doing some huge things, as you guys know. And like, so we sat down, like, if we're going to do this, our original goal was 10,000 a month passive income. So we just did the math. Like we need $100 a door, you know, and back into we need 100 doors. And so then we were like, that's going to be our 5-year plan. So we need to buy 14 doors per year or whatever it was. And so we were like, hey, we need to buy 14 doors was our number that we were like, year 2, year 3, we need to buy 14. That's the only thing I'm focused on. We just started chipping away at it. And so we did the 14 the second year technically. And then the following year we doubled it. We got like almost 30 doors that year.
Wow.
And then we almost doubled again the year after that.
Whoa.
And then we were like, okay, cool. Like now we almost grew too fast, for just my wife and I running the show while we're still trying to do a bunch of stuff. And so we sold some and kind of stabilized for a minute. We plateaued just to kind of make all the pieces drop in line, which you have to do sometimes. It was kind of almost a pride thing at the moment. Like, oh, I can't sell something. Like I've worked so hard to get to this number.
I got 100 doors.
Yeah, it was a door number. Like I have to have this number. Then I was like, this is stupid. Like we're going to lose it all because we're, overextended. Like let's sell just this little piece over here. Let's stabilize the good stuff we have, and we can keep growing.
Right.
So we did some of that. Just kind of, I felt like we kind of grew in plateaus over the years.
It was you and your wife.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so tell us about how is she involved with the business or just supporting you and covering you so you can do the business? Tell us about her.
A little bit of both. I mean, back then she was definitely in the business as well, like helping with screenings, and we were the property manager, we were the maintenance, we were everything, you name it, we did it. I mean, it was just literally us. Like we didn't have any employees, hardly subbed anything out. I did all the work. I mean, I'm a super handy person, so I can fix about anything. But
it's like the opposite of me.
But yeah, we did everything for the first few years, and then she kind of phased in and out over the years too, like different seasons of life with her kids and stuff. As where things come up. But we didn't homeschool at the time either, so the kids were in school, so she had a little more time during the day, and then at night she'd be with the kids. But a lot of it was covering, just like you kind of run the household, I'll run the business.
Yes,
and we'll try to survive this for a couple of years. And I mean, it's just a grind for the first couple of years. I mean, we just made it work.
He still does like so much. Like I'm getting to know his business, being his accountability partner with our mastermind, and the amount of hats you wear and keep it all straight is mind blowing. But I know that you use Asana, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I know that you have a team, but it's a very lean team. I feel like compared to ours, where you have a very impressive way of getting a lot done with a small team. So maybe that's what I want to learn from you is how do you set up your systems as one of your really strong points, and how do you keep your teams lean and still accomplish your goals?
Sure. Yeah, so I'm definitely more of an integrator. Like that's my personality. So Asana's really how we live and die on everything. I went to Tarl and Brandon's masterminds a couple years ago, 3 or 4 years ago. And Tarl Yarber, he was the one that used Asana, and he was just like, oh yeah, this is how we do, 500-600 flips. Like this is what we'd use. And so I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. And it really just came down to like, at the mastermind, multiple people said they used Asana or Monday, all the different versions of it. But I'm like, well, if they're using it, like I remember literally making the decision of, I don't get it. I don't really see the value. But if all these people are using it, it must make sense. So I just was like, we're going to use Asana. That's what we're going to do. And so I just started building, and being my software background, I could build the software. It's not really like building like coding, but just drag and drop and kind of massage your systems into it essentially. But yeah, we've always been lean. I mean, currently we have 2 maintenance people or construction people in the field. I have an office manager that kind of runs everything else. And then I just hired a VA a couple weeks ago. So we're onboarding them right now.
Very good.
Originally it was going to be somebody to help me, but looking at all the roles, like my manager needed more help than I actually did. So the VA is actually helping them and taking it more off their plate.
We just talked about having my assistant become your assistant. Because honestly, like that's that's really cool that you saw that, because that's our choke point is Kallan's bandwidth. So we need to build, like we built a team around me. Now we're building a team around Kallan, which I think maybe you could talk about. Like, I feel like you're a little hesitant to do it just because you want to stay lean, but I feel like it's definitely the right move.
I would love to have an assistant. I think what I love about assistants is you almost try to like duplicate yourself instead of like having like a different hat. So it's like, okay, here's a hat, here's a hat, here's a hat, and everyone's got to like just be in their lane, do their thing with accountability with everybody. But it's like, as an assistant, it's like they become like you in that hat, and they really try to help you like knock out the little things. And so I think it's nice because you almost just double or triple your bandwidth having like a personal assistant to just help with what you're doing, because there's the little things that take away your time, and you need someone to just be in your brain, like be in your emails, be in your everything. And so I like the idea. I think it's brilliant. And you can do really well with VAs. I think that's, a hack that everyone's really getting on board with now. And like where there was some hesitancy, I don't see a lot of that much anymore, but you can, you hire the right people, they'll do a really good job.
Yeah, I mean, it's cost efficient too. I mean, somebody
great.
overseas is a fraction of what you're going to pay here.
True.
Depending on what you're using them for.
What are you going to have your VA do?
Right now,
you texted me this, but I forget.
Yeah, so my manager, he was struggling. I just kind of noticed our phone lines. We have a couple different phone numbers for the various businesses. Like, my goal is to always have like, 1 or 2 missed calls at most at the end of the business day. Like, so tomorrow morning, just come in, do that. And I started noticing, like, went from 1 or 2 to 3 or 4 to 15 to 20. And I'm like, all right, you're just buried at this point. So their primary role is going to take over the phones, like that front line.
Smart.
And because, looking at different books and whatever, and different podcasts, like the frontline phones is kind of a simple thing to offload quickly, because if nothing else, they can just take messages, but people at least want to, like, they talk to somebody, like, let me get back to you. If that's all they do, like, great. I mean, it just feels good when somebody answered.
A voice is better than nothing.
Yeah.
Well, the customer experience, I mean, as a customer in a lot of other businesses, that means a lot. Like when you call and they don't pick up, guess what I do? I go on Google and I call the next company. Just like that. It'll just be that fast if they don't pick up. But if they pick up and say, okay, I got you. I heard you. Let me get your information down. We're going to get you in the queue, blah, 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 blah. And it's like, you can, and it's so much cheaper, more cost effective to have someone just sit there to do the reactive and just be ready for reactive when you're going overseas.
Yeah. I mean, we have like, we have our storage business. So like, how many of those people did you lose? And like, once they move in, like, what's the stats on how long they're going to stay? So like, how much money did you really lose on that customer lifetime cost?
Right.
Just for somebody to answer the phone, like, hey, we'll call you back in 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Great. I mean, that's super easy.
I like that.
So, I mean, I want you to talk a little bit about the paint abatement business. Like, I know that's another niche. You've been in everything. So explain that. And then as a follow-up, I want to hear, like, I know that it's your personality to just go get into whatever you can that makes money, and talk about the balance of maybe getting into a lot of cool things and versus focusing, and how you manage that too.
Yeah, sure. So the lead paint abatement, basically we used to flip houses. That was kind of our thing for a little while. We weren't like huge flippers, but do 3 or 4 a year type of thing. Yeah. And so again, being in Iowa, like it's a local, really small knit community. And so I know a lot of the housing directors and the people at the city, like where I could just text them a question versus like making a formal inquiry on stuff.
Such a big deal.
Yeah. So they would come to, like, I started a local RIA group, and so they would come to the meetings and just like hang out. He had a rental property and stuff, and he was talking to me about flipping, and I'm like, yeah, it's okay. Like the market's the market,
Yeah.
Take it or leave it. And he's like, you should really look at this. Like the city's looking for contractors to do lead paint abatement. And I'm like, hardcore no. Like I don't want to do for hire work. Probably more of an ego thing. Like I'm my own person. Like I'm not working for anybody. I'm working on my own stuff, building my own legacy. And so I like told him no like 3 or 4 times, and he's like, no, seriously, like you should really look at this. And looking back now, I'm like, he knew some of the numbers behind it, I think. So he was like, I can't do it, but like you need to do this. Like you have the skills.
So generous of a public service guy who's got like the in on a very lucrative business and just doesn't want to do it.
Yeah, so I'm like, all right, whatever. Like, so my buddy and I do that together. And so we both were like, well, let's just go try it. And so they were giving, like, we had to take a 40-hour class to get certified, and our city like paid for it. So like, you just come, like, we'll pay for the certification. It's fine. Like you can get it. And so we're just like, went into it literally with an attitude of like, let's just see what happens. Like, who cares? If we do like one project a year, maybe we make 20 grand, cool. And like, we got into it in our first year, we did over $1 million in contracts. And we're like, what the heck's going on here? What's happening?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, lead paint abatement.
So meaning you just kept going and just get rid of all the lead paint?
Yeah, so they bid out different scopes of work of like replacing windows, and I mean like literally scrape it off the trim on the wall, paint it. That's like part of the scope. Replace doors. I mean, some siding of the outside, things like that. But we do a ton of windows. Like we do like 400 or 500 windows a year replacements. And so it's just
lead in the windows.
Yeah, like a lot of the old
trim.
varnishes and the paints.
Oh, on the trim, the outside.
Yeah, so like when the old wood window in our area, it's old wood windows. So
Yeah.
when they go up and down, that surface that slides, it creates dust. and then that dust just kind of travels throughout the home. So if they have kids, they can get sick from it. It's not like for us to be in a house with lead, we could probably eat it and like it'll eventually have effects, but like really not that bad. But if you take like your baby, for example, and like within a week or two, like they can get sick from it.
Oh, dang.
So it's a lot more dangerous for young kids. So it's a government program nationwide. It's HUD money just to like get rid of the hazard. I mean, it's just a thing that they used up until 1976, and like it's everywhere. I'm sure it's here. I mean, there's more new construction here than where I'm at, but we have an old housing stock, so there's tons and tons of it.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot more there, Midwest area
further east than
there would probably here, with things being a little bit newer. But really, really cool. We had someone on the podcast who also capitalized on a government program that no one really knows about.
I mean, it's the same with like asbestos and lead. I mean, there's 3 or 4 different things that we thought it was good until somebody studied it and realized like, oh, that's actually causing issues. Like, we should probably stop using that.
Yeah.
And now we have money to get rid of it.
Yeah, that's very true. So with that business, are you doing a lot of the work hands-on, or did you hire like people? Like, how'd you kind of manage or handle that business along with everything else?
So we still run it in parallel with our current team. So we didn't we kind of hired one more person on. So like I said, we have 2 construction workers. So it allowed us to like more comfortably hire that person on, knowing like, hey, you can work on my projects for the most part, but then I'll cover your salary over here. And yeah, we just kind of trade back and forth. Like we'll be working on our project, and then we have a contract come up, and so we just leave for 2 or 3 days and go do it, and just come back.
That's perfect. The portfolio, you already have it as in-house staff to basically service all your houses, and then
it has flips waiting. So like if his guys don't have if his job for the paint, if that's caught up
on the flip,
they have a flip that's waiting for them.
Right.
So it keeps the efficiency and the bandwidth super lean.
I forgot that you are flipping. So part of your business is flipping and then holding on.
Well, not necessarily like flipping and selling, but just buy and hold. Yeah. So like
just
refurb our current apartments. Yep.
Just doing all the refurbs.
Improve and rent.
Yeah, improve. And if we buy something, we had done a lot of burrs in the past, so we'd always have those. But yeah, I mean, it kind of gets to that point where it's like it's painful to leave them sit. You're like, oh, I'm paying mortgages on these 3 properties. Like right now, I only have like 2 properties I think that are sitting that we're kind of sort of working on when we have time. But like at one time we had like a year ago, like 7 or 8 houses just sitting, waiting. But it's like I can spend $3 or $4 grand in mortgages over here to hold them. But if I go do all these contracts all month, I can make $100 grand. Like it's cost benefit of like it's gonna sit.
Let it
Sorry,
sit.
But it's still painful because you're like, I have all this stuff going, and like, what do I do? Where do you prioritize?
Would it ever make sense to hire more and then just lay people off, or is that just too much stress and work?
We've talked about it off and on. I mean, the problem is they have to be certified, and so they only do the class so many times a year. So we just have to figure out the timing, like to hire somebody, get them trained, and then hopefully they don't leave, because then you kind of start that cycle again.
Yeah, makes sense.
It's kind of worked. I mean, that's kind of the way we run our business now too. Like we can get into this if you want, but like us leaving in the winter, I like to kind of, the business is high for 6 to 9 months, and then I'd really tail it off. And so by me able to have just 2 people, I can just consistently have the same staff load, and we just flex when we need to.
Very lean.
That's true. Yeah, it's just you don't have to onboard too much, and then it's like like you might have something sit every once in a while when you get like a bunch of leads, but it makes sense.
So all these streams of income. Give us an idea of what's if they had a pie graph of what's bringing in the most money for you, and how do you balance that with other things opportunities that might come up? Because across your stories, it's like you got your hands in everything.
Yeah. I mean, it's a good thing and a bad thing, right? I mean, you can get distracted. I mean, the lead paint's probably our biggest profit center.
Right.
And so for years, it's a service business. I mean, we've taken a lot of the money out of that and pumped it into real estate. So it's just like, instead of flipping, we're going to do this for higher, whatever. And like, let's take that money and buy real estate. Our real estate, like our passive income, like our true passive, it's nowhere near like what the lead construction makes, but I can still live off my passive. Like that's actually our monthly bills or less.
Yeah.
And so this is just like gravy and bonus money. We still are very cognizant of like not increasing our overhead and like running lean, to your point, like both in the business and personal, like we run super lean. Like I have my house mortgage, and we have my vehicle's in the business, but my wife's vehicle. I'm like, that's our bills. Like we don't have much overhead.
So awesome.
I mean, we could have all this cool stuff. We spend more money on traveling now in the last couple of years than we do anything else. I mean,
we need to talk about that. That fires me up, the travel, right? But first, I want to make sure we highlight. You hear what he said? Service business, highly profitable, in demand. Pump it into real estate, like that. To me, that's the secret. Like
that's what Kiyosaki always says too. Like wherever you're going to make your money, whatever that is, make your money somehow and get it into real estate.
Yeah.
Park it there.
Service business into real estate is the way to go.
When it's not just like that, it's the smartest thing to build wealth, but like all your tax strategy, it's all points to just that. Like people that are making tons of money in services businesses and pumping it into real estate are paying little to zero taxes a year as well. So it's like, that is pretty amazing.
Right.
That's
because if you just have that service business, you're going to get killed in taxes.
Yeah, you're gonna just like you make $1 million and you got 300-400. You will write a check for $400,000.
Right.
Like it just will be the case, which is.
Or you have to freaking buy 10 trucks every year,
right?
Write it off, but
like can you buy 10 trucks every year? So
right.
yeah,
at some point it's not feasible.
Dumb. It's dumb.
But that's what makes it even more of like the secret, like the best. I've already used hack in this podcast, but like life hack, really cool. Really,
I think people would overlook that, like a simple business like getting rid of lead paint, right? That's what's in demand in this world, is those little niches, right? That's the secret sauce, is play to your strengths, go where the demand is, and then pump it in real estate.
Yeah. One thing I want to highlight that I really love is something you mentioned, is just like how you hit the businesses super hard, and then you have this, like, you got your summer vacation, which is probably not during summer. Is it during winter?
During winter. Yep.
Yeah, winter vacation because it's Iowa. I love that. And it's like, it's cool, like that vision, like what you've created, the life you created for you and for your family. And how many months a year are you on leave?
Tell about this last one.
So this year my goal is to take 6 months off. I'm like 2.5, 3 weeks short of that currently. So I need to figure out a way sometime between now and the end of the year.
Is it 6 months of winter in Iowa? 5?
Pretty much.
You're taking total, right?
Yeah. So
total time off.
Yeah, total time off. Yeah, so like we typically 4 years ago we left for our first winter, and everybody thought we were crazy, and I thought we were kind of crazy. We went to Florida, and it was just like, I mean, we totally left. And I remember telling my wife this, like, what do we have to lose? Again, like, let's just leave, and worst case we just fly home. Like, it's a 2-hour flight, like $300. I could be home tomorrow. You guys can come home later in the week or something, like, and I can put out the fire, and it's whatever, you know. And so we left for the first year, and like nothing broke. I'm like, well, that was cool. How do we do this? I think we had one employee at the time. So then I don't remember if it was the first winter or the second winter, but I had one construction worker, and he called me in like January. He's like, hey, I'm kind of overwhelmed with this rehab. Like, we need some more help. My buddy's looking for a job. Like, can we hire him? I'm like, sure. So we hired the guy. I'd never talked to him on the phone. Like, just hired it through my other guy. I think I talked to him on the phone like once in that whole winter. And then, like, I remember I was coming home down this hill, a big hill in our city, and my work truck that we have is like coming up the hill, and like, oh, that must be the guy that I hired.
Wow,
that was just a cool experience.
What a cool experience.
Wow, that's kind of neat. Like, I've never experienced that before. It's always been me doing the work, you know.
That is so cool.
But yeah, so we started leaving in the winter, so now it's like we're those people, you know, in our town of like, well, you guys are young. Like, we live in an older neighborhood, so like most of my neighbors are like 70 plus.
And you're a snowbird, just like the rest of them.
Yeah, they all leave, and we leave with them. It's so funny.
You're how
34.
Okay, you're 34 and you're already retired with the snowbirds going to Florida in the summer. That's super cool.
What was tell them the itinerary for this last winter?
Yeah, so this last winter we went a little bit further out. It used to be like Florida and Hawaii or something, but we went to New Zealand for a month, then Australia for like 3 weeks, and then Thailand for 3 weeks, and Turkey, and then Mexico.
Oh
and
my
Florida.
gosh.
Boom.
You guys have a YouTube channel?
Now you know why I'm friends with this guy.
Dude, a YouTube channel with like homeschooling your kids on the road. People like make tons of money off those. Like, and you're like doing it just for fun. Those guys are doing it as a job.
Right.
Well, and that's the amazing thing to me.
Wow.
Because you've set it up to where your family's thriving. Like, you're not worried about like, oh, things are going to go wrong at home, or this is too expensive. Like, you're doing it in a way that it's not putting a strain on your wife and kids. So maybe speak to that, and like, how do you guys manage like Does it feel like a vacation, or does it feel like you're just literally living in another place, going to school and stuff?
Yeah, I mean, it kind of feels like a vacation still. Like this past year, for sure, it felt like vacation because we did like everything. I mean, we spent more money on this past winter's vacation, if you want to call it that, than I used to make at my W-2, like my first year. I remember thinking like we passed that threshold. I'm like, oh, wow, this is a different thing.
Yeah.
Like that's cool. But yeah, I mean, so it felt like more of a vacation. The previous years was like, we're just living somewhere. And,
living in Florida.
Yeah, and like living in Florida or living in Arizona, like no biggie. Like we're going to do some school in the morning and then we'll go out and hike or see something local. But yeah, I mean, so the last year we stopped using curriculum. And so my wife, props to her, like I don't do much with the homeschooling, so I'm trying to run the businesses. But
right.
She basically was like, you know what, some of this curriculum stuff, like you can do different things and there's different ones you can buy that whatever your values are, you know. But she's like, I want to do like the unschool approach. And so when our international travel, we did 100% just no curriculum. We didn't even like do school per se. Like we just lived and like whatever you want to do, like let's go snorkel. Like, and then the kids would be like, oh, what about that shark I just saw? I'm like, I don't know. Let's Google it. Let's see. And then they'd go down that rabbit trail of like, oh, the shark only lives here. It eats this fish. It lives in this kind of atmosphere. It doesn't live anywhere else because of these reasons, you know? And so we just taught them that way instead. But I mean, to me, I think that's like the best education you can get.
It is.
They want to learn.
Yeah, they're trying to learn.
They want to experience, and they want to like. Then they get to have ownership over their education.
Mm-hmm.
Sounds like the chemical company school you went to.
Yeah, basically. It's just not as
real
hard
life.
knocks.
You know, the school of experience.
It sounds like we're not using math in real life.
Well, right. I mean, you're not using the math that you're using, like the calculus and stuff like that.
But it's like you don't ever use it in real life, and everyone complains about
right.
that.
But I mean, our kids learned how to exchange currency in foreign countries, and like that they, you know, like, oh, well, you're going to give them $10 US, but they're only going to give you whatever back in this country because the exchange rate. But then also they take a fee. Well, why is there a fee? Well, they're trying to run a business. They need to make a profit, and like just having those conversations.
The only math that matters.
Yeah, right.
Like business math.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
How to make money. That's really, really cool.
And a lot of it was just like the schooling of life. I mean, like I've traveled internationally a handful of times, and like, but mostly countries that spoke English and like very similar to the U.S. That way. But like Thailand was totally different. Like we kind of had culture shock for the first couple of days, like all of us. But then it was just kind of like, well, we're here. We just need to like live. Like, how do we get groceries? And we go to the grocery store and like nobody spoke English, and we're like, well, it kind of looks like something I would eat. Let's try it. You know?
Yeah.
Wow.
They have the meat just in like a baggie on a plate in the back, and you just put it in your bag. I'm like, it's not how I grew up, but all right, let's try it.
There you go.
Wow, what a cultural education. That's like so true. You get to experience all these places. Now, I have to ask, you had a really big winter. Can you rate your top 5 of those countries and those trips?
Thailand was by far everybody's favorite. So we actually chartered a sailboat, and so we had a captain and her husband. It was like a 50-foot sailboat. So we did a week like around this bay area, and all the touristy stuff you see be on the east, or we were in Phuket, so whatever that bay is called. But yeah, we did all the stuff you could go to, you know, on day trips or whatever. I'm like, well, let's just rent a boat and do them all in one shot. So we just had our own private crew. They cooked the food, and like, so we just snorkeled and stuff. So I mean, that was the best thing I've ever done.
Wow.
For context, like it was like $3,000. I mean, we're not talking like $100,000 to do this.
Right.
I mean, it's very reasonable.
$3,000 to charter a boat for a week or something?
Right, a week.
With private chefs and
And they took you to every spot, and they knew like, all right, you're gonna get off the boat. They'd be like, go swim right there. That's where the sharks hang out. That's where you want to see this thing. Like a private guide, basically.
That's so cool. I've heard that, and I've heard Ben, because Ben's really well traveled, but he's always talked about his, you know, Thailand being one of your top
It's the best. It's the best. Yeah.
But it's like you get all these things, and it's not like, but you get your money goes a lot further there. So I just hear that it's like Ben would always talks about like $1 smoothies and $8 massages.
Sorry to rub it in, dude. But
it's all true though. He's not lying.
Yeah, it's amazing, man.
Go ahead. No, you're good. My thought is, I just want to know number 2 now. But
go ahead. Yeah, go ahead. Number 2.
Number 2 would probably be New Zealand. I mean, it's just beautiful. I mean, there's so much to see. I didn't know even like how big the country was. That it's like basically the east coast of the U.S. like lengthwise, give or take. And so we traveled the entire country. Like we drove every day. So the first like 2 months of our trip, we moved every single night. We stayed somewhere new. So like suitcases in, suitcases out every day.
Wow.
And so we were hustling, which I don't know if I'd recommend that for everybody. I mean, it was a lot, like we finally got to Thailand. We're like, wow, this is nice. Like we can unpack our suitcase a little bit.
Yeah.
Weird. But I mean, we saw so much that, I mean, New Zealand's pretty. I mean, everything. I mean, Utah's pretty, but New Zealand's like a whole different
Did you
level.
see the
It's
Shire?
green.
Did you go to the Shire? Lord of the Rings?
Yeah, yep. We went.
Of course he did.
We went to, what is it called, Hobbitown or something?
Hobbiton.
Oh, they call
Yeah.
it Hobbiton.
You got me nervous when you hesitated. I was like,
Well, that's the problem. We saw so much stuff that like we were like we'd get back and they're like, "Oh, what'd you do? What'd you see?" I'm like,
Dude, everything?
I don't know. The whole country. That's
Yeah.
what we saw.
Oh, that's so great. So,
And so we made notes and stuff. Like we have a kind of our itinerary. And we made our kids' journal too.
He's gonna send it to
Wow.
me.
It's
That's
just
super cool.
interesting to like read their journals. I'm like, oh yeah, we did do that. I forgot about that.
That is
Yeah.
so cool. When you've gotten to that point, that's really really cool. So, what do they call Australians? Like we call New Zealanders Kiwis.
Mm-hmm.
What do we call the
Aussies.
Aussies? I mean,
Aussies.
Yeah.
you went to the bowl, so you're a Kiwi. You're not an Aussie, but you went to both. I know those countries they compete with each other pretty much.
Yeah, so we did the west coast of Australia, Perth. So we
Oh.
flew into Perth and did a couple days in the city, and then we did a camper van up the west coast, which, again, I'm typically a very like calculated person, but when it comes to travel, I'm a lot more just like, let's go. It's gonna be warm, like whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's fine. We'll figure it out. And like I think would have been February. February in Australia and Perth is pretty hot. There's like 120 degrees most
No
days.
way.
Wow.
And like you're going through the outback, just nothing. The West Coast is like super, super just wide open
Jeez.
vastness, and like you go from gas station to gas station. Like that's all the further you can go. Like if you have to stop because you run out of gas.
Wow.
And so I remember like it was so hot, and like we were in the camper van, like the AC when you're driving is only in the front. The back one doesn't work unless you're plugged in. So like the kids are like standing in the little entryway, like to go back and forth, and like just sitting there getting AC. It was kind of cool because like
Wow.
probably things I shouldn't say publicly, but like the kids are like on our lap driving down the road because it was just so hot, and you're like,
Yeah.
no one's here, like it's just us.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
whatever.
you and the animals.
Pretty much, and the kangaroos at night. It was crazy.
That's
The dingoes.
Yep.
super cool. I have pet a baby kangaroo before and held one and boxed an adult kangaroo, but it was in Wisconsin.
You
So-
boxed a kangaroo?
Yeah, I have a video.
All right, dude.
That's
We gotta
They actually, it was on.
make sure to get that video.
It was on my mission. My companion got his glasses knocked off.
I love that.
Was that
So-
like a fair or something?
No, it was just a couple that liked exotic animals and probably had them illegally. But
Welcome to the Midwest.
they actually made the
That's what we do.
news. So this couple and this tangent, we don't have to get into this, but they made like national news because they would always like. I think they were illegal. I don't think you're allowed to have kangaroos in Wisconsin, but they had these baby kangaroos, and she would put them in car seats and like baby carriers and strollers and stuff. She was like in McDonald's with her kangaroo and her like stroller.
Hiding in her shirt.
No, it like a stroller, like a freaking car seat.
Yeah.
And like someone like got a video
Right.
and like it just like made national news
National
and
news.
stuff. And anyways, isn't the Great Barrier Reef off the coast of Australia, or is it Madagascar?
Yeah.
It's Australia.
East Coast,
Did
right?
you do it?
It's on the east, right? I think we were just talking about that.
Northeast coast.
Oh, you were west.
We did what's on the west? Ningaloo Reef or something
Yeah,
like that?
sounds right.
I think that's like the upper west coast. We didn't go diving. Like I'm certified scuba, but we didn't with the kids.
You're
It
the
was just too
kids,
tough.
You can't
Yeah.
do that. Yeah. How
We
many
did
kids?
tons of 3.
Oh wow.
Yep,
Wow.
12, 9, and 6.
Oh, okay. So they're a little bit older. Like you're not like changing diapers or anything.
Yeah. But I mean, like in Thailand, we did the mopeds are huge in Thailand.
Yeah.
And so our Airbnb, we had 2 of them you could take for like $2 a day or something. So it was my 2 boys on the moped with me, and then my wife and daughter on the other one. We just cruised around Thailand, like
So
Just like a
cool.
Thai family.
yeah, yeah. How many people can we fit on this?
Yeah, we've seen 5 on one little moped before.
Oh,
I got some cool, funny photos though. Like my 6-year-old has like this kind of like the bowling ball style helmet, you know, with like some red and black designs, and he's got like these big old goggles, and he's sitting in front of me it's just comical.
that is so.
But it's like a
awesome.
core memory that we'll look back someday and be like, that was cool. Like,
Yeah.
we did that.
Yeah, obviously.
So many of these things.
That fatherhood it's like what it's all about, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we've talked about a lot about the tactics of business and some of those experiences that you've had, but tell us more about Luke the man. Like, what do you value as a dad? Like, what are some principles you live by that you feel like have helped you create this life?
Yeah, I mean, I think you have to be super disciplined. Like, I've always been disciplined in general, but like I was telling my wife just the other day, I'm like, if I don't wake up in the morning, like I get up every day at 4, and that's my me time, 4 to 6 before really anybody stirs. But like I get so much done at that hour, no one's bothering you. But like even Asana, like if I don't wake up at 4 and then like log into Asana, it sounds so geeky, but like my whole day is just like off. I'm like, oh, what's going on here? But like if I spend 2 minutes there, then my whole day is like grounded, and then I'm like, all right, whatever the day brings, I can deal with it. But like I know all my bases are covered. But yeah, I mean, I think discipline's huge for me. I mean, faith with our family. We a really big part of our church. I'm on the board. My wife does the worship music.
Wow. Very cool.
And then travel. I mean, that's kind of one of my big passions. I've always been. But I mean, I really enjoy working hard. Like when everybody's like, oh, it's too hot out, I don't want to go out there. That's where I'm like, let's go. Like that's me. Like I could care less. Like the days that everyone says they don't want to go, I'm like, I'll be there for sure. And so that's part of my downfall, I would say, too, is like I'm so handy and so willing to put in that effort that I sometimes have struggled to like get out of the business and like let people do their job. And like, yeah, you might be able to go and do it faster because you're there and like you have the passion as the owner, but like you need to step back and like go do the things that matter on the business at the high level or take the vacation or whatever and like get out of the business. That's why you work so hard.
Yeah.
And so it's really tough sometimes even to like step away.
Yeah.
But the winters really helped with us, like
right.
I think one little tip for all your listeners too would be like,
please.
If nothing else, like you don't have to take a 3-month trip around the world. Like that's pretty extreme. I get that. But like you can leave for a week, you can leave for a month and like see if the business runs and like let it fail a little bit and fix it. Like it's fine. And like the first couple years we left, like I thought stuff was going to break, honestly. And so I was hoping it would, so I could like expose the issues.
Yeah.
And thankfully it didn't break, I guess too, which is good and bad. But like it's like a little hack I think you could do, like just step away, see what breaks. Nothing that breaks is really going to be like just destruct the whole business. Like
stress test your business.
Yeah, stress test. Thank you. Like we do it in deals all the time. You underwrite deals and like put a higher interest rate, or you can't refi, or you can't get the value you want on the back end.
Right.
Do the same thing in your business. 'Cause it's just going to make everything stronger and build that base.
That's really
we're
cool.
sending our CEO to a conference for moving. And our chief marketing and sales officer is going to be out of town. Garrett and Jeremy will both be gone for the week. I'll be gone for the week. So it's just going to be like our, Scott and kind of our younger managers running the whole show. So kind of similar. Like I was talking to Garrett about it, just like, yeah, like go and see how these guys do while you're gone, anyways, and that's how it is whenever Kallan leaves town. Definitely the managers, the mid-level managers get their stressed, like they get set up with a bunch more assignments, right? So even if Kallan's gone for a day, but that's amazing.
It's important, I think.
No, it totally is.
Well, it's funny, this I just had just last week, I'm like, we have got to get reborn into Asana, and you have everyone. I kind of like started all the storage investment company in Asana, and then just kind of we hired some people to run that and for me to do other things, and so. But I'm just really, really pushing right now to get that in there and just be married to it and just have that be our thing. And so it's kind of like a good assurance, like a reassurance that
it works.
You're the same way.
We'll have to look at his Asana off air after that.
I mean, if you would let us, I would love to see how you manage everything through there and the cool features you've probably unlocked. But that'd be amazing.
So, my only question is like, what's next?
Yeah.
Like, what? you have your businesses are humming, like you have a good demeanor of just like, I'm so content. That's what I feel,
Right.
and I really admire.
Also,
that.
still like, growth mode. It feels like too, like.
Yeah, like you're still like aggressively growing. You have like a good balance with your family, but like, what are you after now?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like our risk profile has changed like the last year, 2 years. Like I kind of feel a shift, how we invest. So deals I would have done 3 years ago, I'm like, that's not really for me, or it takes too much time to do like massive full gut rehabs. And so we're really transitioning right now to like new construction and more development related stuff. And so I just got permits approved for a single family. We're going to do our first new build.
Yeah.
We bought some land. And so
a spec house.
No, we're going to keep it. I mean, kind of a spec house, but we're going to keep it as a rental.
Okay.
So we bought 17 acres that has commercial buildings that will move our operations, or they're moving currently. And then we'll have the rental house that we're going to build right now, like hoping to break ground really soon. And then next year we'll build our house in the back of the land and kind of have our compound, if you will. But so I'm excited about that because I think our market is prime for like build to rent.
Nice.
And so just if we can dial in the numbers on a single family, like I'm not going to buy any older houses and do the rehabs anymore. Like I think that's going to be the better play for us. And then also with our storage, we're like super, super close to getting permits and stuff to build the last building on our facility. And so same thing, like our market in general, like probably 30 to 40 minutes east or west of us, I guess. It's like small towns, but they're prime for more storage. And so again, I want to like pilot the build and see what our costs land at and then take it from there.
Hey, we'll hire you to build some storage for us, man.
Yeah.
How do you like just because all we do is storage. For you as an unbiased, you do a lot of everything. You've done every kind of real estate.
Right.
Almost. But how does storage compare to other stuff you have going on?
I like it better from like the day-to-day. Like the only thing I don't like about it, I guess, compared with that way would be it's a lot more transactional. Like people are always coming and going versus like a long-term rental, once a year they're moving out. And so it just like, it's a little slower flow, but at the same time, like if they're there for a year, like you might have to do some work. So it takes a little bit more to turn it over. The storage is like in and out, like they could leave tomorrow and somebody comes in that afternoon. So I like that. I mean, I think I like it longer, or like I like it for the long-term play, like the value's there. And I think it's just a lot easier. Like there's less moving parts. It's more easy to systematize. Like we use probably a lot of the same systems you do to like, we don't have to go to the facility. Like for people to move in, we don't have to talk to them. They can do it online, get the codes, move in. Like that's pretty cool to me.
Exactly. Yeah, we love that. And that is true. And what are the three, is it like toilets? It's like, or three T's, toilets and...
Toilets, tenants, and
something else.
termites or something like that.
Probably. Metal buildings.
Yeah, there's like nothing that can break. It's steel. And like, you put a new piece of steel up if they back into it or something.
The roof.
Yeah.
If it's not metal roof, maybe your doors, like maintenance on your doors over time. If you didn't start with a higher quality door, like we're experiencing a little bit of that. But no, all great things. It's cool that you've seen both. Like there are pros and cons to that, even with like people might not want to mention, you have a longer term lease. Like you get that person in, don't have to worry about it until they call for maintenance, and then with storage, you have to worry about the turnover. People forget that storage is a business. Like it's an actual business, and a lot of owners want to get it full and don't ever worry about it and just have that kind of passive, and they might be leaving money on the table as a business owner. But that might be okay for you.
Yeah, for certain people.
Like it might be okay for some people, but yeah, really cool.
Yeah, so I think we're kind of looking mostly to go into that new development space just because like I said, my risk profile is changing. So I'm like, you know what, we should probably just move some money from all these older rentals that we bought 7, 8 years ago. And like, let's just move the money over here, sell them off, 1031 it in. And then, it's just easier to manage a brand new asset at the end of the day. Like your maintenance is lower. You don't have as many headaches. It's in better areas of town typically, like all the different benefits you get. And so we're kind of transitioning more of like, I don't know the right word, but like the easy road in real estate. Like we've kind of did our time in some rougher areas in our neighborhoods, and let's get to some easier stuff that can cash flow consistently, and we can like enjoy our life. And I mean, my kids are to that age too, that like now we can do really cool stuff. Like they're capable.
Wow, I love that. And what another cool thing, because you are going to be generally the general contractor for these new builds and stuff, so you get that margin.
Right.
So now, like, it seems like it makes sense with the systems you have in place, with everything you've done, where you've gotten, built a team. Now it's like, I can build this thing, and I'm going to build it for X amount of dollars, not going to have to pay someone to do it, and like all the markup on top of it, and just...
And I'm kind of hoping, honestly, that I can essentially burr the new constructions, that my GC fee that normally somebody would pay is my paper equity, that the bank will be like, yeah, sure, we're good. I don't have any money in these deals.
Wow.
And so that's kind of the pilot program, again, to like, can I see a 20-30%, on the finished cost, like, am I able to see that on the appreciation and on the appraisals?
Well, I'm
cool.
actually like kind of thinking about this build to rent. I don't think people do that around here. I don't know if it's really feasible. And so the fact that you have access to a market like that, and I think it probably requires a more long-term disciplined strategy. And I think you have that, or I think a lot of people don't. So I think that's really cool to highlight as well.
Yeah, to speak just slightly, here in town, we have a lot of build to rent, but they're like vacation.
Sure.
They're like there's very, very little. There was actually a townhouse complex, like tons of units, like 50 units, like a massive townhome complex that they built right next to Lava Ridge in Santa Clara.
Yeah.
But they got it passed as like through the city that it was going to be, they subdivided it, and they said, no, they were going to build and sell these. And that's what it was zoned for. That's what they had to do. And then they're like, oh, they subdivided every single lot, and they didn't sell a single one of them. They held on to every single one, and they're renting every single one. Oh, AJ, not nightly.
Oh, no.
But they just built to rent the whole entire development. City's pissed because they had them. So as long as you got your one and done, you're good. Like your one and done. Sounds like. But AJ also did that. I think. Oh, never mind. They're selling those. But yeah, very few people are actually doing that.
Yeah, I think it depends on the market too. I mean, I don't know. Your build costs are way higher out here, I'm sure.
It is. So I think we've been like really fed today. Really cool things. One thing I love about this episode with you is just like, it's just how inspirational your story is. Like, it's cool to see what you've been able to achieve and how you've kept things in balance, and just really, really inspiring. I mean, 34 and you're just killing it, which is awesome. And I almost want to know, like, where are you going to go next? What's your next winter vacation going to look like? Like, it's really exciting. So
yeah, I would agree, man. Thanks for being here. Like, we're going into our mastermind, and this is a great way for me to kind of get in that big picture spirit. What do we need to do to shift? But I think my highlights are like the work ethics there, the systems set you up, right? So your systems are the reason that you can work so hard and not worry about things getting out of hand, is because that's set. And then your foundation of faith, family, like those types of things. I love your decision making that you've held off. You're building your dream house in like a couple of years from a year or two, right?
Yep.
But you've held off so long on that, and you've been doing these family experiences. That is another thing that just resonates with me, because I feel like I'm trying to do that same path, right? And so, thanks so much for being here, man.
Yeah, no, it was great.
It was amazing.
Appreciate it.
That's another great episode of Beyond Net Worth.
thanks, Luke.
Thank you.
This episode is brought to you by Baseco. Baseco Foundation and Concrete Solutions specialize in foundation repair, waterproofing, and concrete lifting. They have the ability to lift settled or sinking foundations, permanently waterproof homes and structures, underpin and support new foundations and structures, erect sizable block retaining walls, and lift settled concrete slabs, including sidewalks, driveways, patios, and garage floors.
Yeah, I know Rock personally, and he's a close friend, and I wouldn't trust anyone else as a real estate investor. The foundation's the most important piece, and it can make or break any deal. So we appreciate Baseco. This episode is brought to you by Big Storage Ventures. We are now inviting you to team up and partner alongside us. We bring our experience hunting storage deals and maximizing the self-storage asset to provide our partners with cash flow, tax benefits, and appreciation, all in one recession-resistant asset. Leverage our sister company, Big Ben's Moving Service, to fill your facility and give you an edge over the competition. Reach out to bigstorageventures@gmail.com or DM Big Storage Ventures on Instagram to team up.
Thailand was by far everybody's favorite. So we actually chartered a sailboat, and so we had a captain and her husband. It was like a 50-foot sailboat. So we did a week like around this bay area, and all the touristy stuff you see. Be on the east, or we were in Phuket, so whatever that bay is called. But yeah, we did all the stuff you could go to, on day trips or whatever. I'm like, well, let's just rent a boat and do them all in one shot. So we just had our own private crew. They cooked the food, and so we just snorkeled and stuff. So, I mean, that was the best thing I've ever done.
Wow.
Just for context, like it was like $3,000. I'm not talking like $100,000 to do this.
Right.
I mean, it's very reasonable.
$3,000 to charter a boat for a week or something?
Right, a week.
With private chefs and...
And they took you to every spot, and they knew like, all right, you're going to get off the boat. They'd be like, go swim right there. That's where the sharks hang out. That's where you want to see this thing. Like a private guide, basically.